naira, even in the NNPC retail outlets across the country. Also, the naira, which traded below 500 naira to $1 when Tinubu took charge, now trades above 1,700 naira per litre, making the naira, according to the World Bank, one of the poorest performing currencies in the world. That notwithstanding, the World Bank warns that reversing these reforms will be detrimental and will spell doom for Nigeria, and that's a quote by its officials. Well, to help us make sense of the World Bank warning to Nigeria, we have joining us in the studio an accomplished economist and someone who has expertise on the global economy, especially Africa. Professor A.Chibo Christopher is currently the head of investment research and development for Africa at the Swiss Business School in Switzerland. Thank you, Prof, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
Well, Prof, these are very difficult times for a lot of Nigerians, and many Nigerians are currently angry with the World Bank for this prescription, saying that how much more do Nigerians have to live or die for before the economy actually picks up. And so they say 15 years is quite too long, because even President Tinubu and his team would have been gone, far gone then, to even see the benefits. So in essence, how can we place this side by side with Nigeria's yearning for the economy to actually grow? How much more reforms do we need compared to what we have? Okay,
you know, it's interesting that they're calling it reforms. I think these are tackling symptoms. Nigeria has always, for a long time, has only been tackling symptoms, and the World Bank is basically asking Nigeria to continue to tackle the symptoms. But, you see, for the symptoms to go, and for Nigeria to be healed, you must tackle the causes of it. So, a good analogy would be like this. Nigeria has malaria. There's hardship. There's inflation. There's hardship in town, everywhere. And the World Bank has told Nigeria, you know, the malaria medicine that you prescribe for yourself, make sure you take it judiciously and take it for 15 years, and you will, of course, get better, and Africa too would get better. I'm saying no. I'm saying, you know what? Yes, you have malaria. Inflation is there. There's hardship. The purchasing power of Nigerian citizens is low. It's almost gone. I'm saying, so you need to take your malaria medicine. No doubt about that. But you need to go further. I'm saying it's not enough to take your malaria medicine. You need to go further and kill all the mosquitoes around you. You see? Kill all the mosquitoes around you, and also eradicate all the stagnant water around you. And people like me are now saying, okay, you know what? Apart from stagnant water eradication and mosquitoes, here's the malaria vaccine. And that's the difference between what I'm going to explain and what the World Bank is talking about. Because that is why it's very important for me that we get it right. Because we can't afford to subsidize fuel, neither can we subsidize foreign currency. Okay, yes, it's arguable. According to what we know, we can't. But according to what I know and what we know, we would have been able to do that if we got it right from the beginning. And that's why it's interesting now. During his speech, the Vice President of the World Bank said that this whole thing started about 40 years ago, if you listen to it, when the oil prices crashed, and the economy and the oil revenues was mismanaged, and it was mismanaged in such a way that it benefited the rich and the elite, and of course nothing came to the poor. Fine. True. But why? Why did it happen that way? That's the issue. Because incidentally, and this may anger some people, at the same time the oil prices crashed, little is known that a few years before that, African countries, spearheaded by Nigeria, actually came together in Monrovia, 1979. And they came together, and it's called the Monrovia Agreement. Okay. They came together to emancipate themselves from the world system economic slavery.
That's these neoliberal institutions. Bretton Woods institutions like
The
World Bank,
IMF, they came together. Thank you. The IMF, the World Bank, and the likes. African leaders at that time knew that, listen, for them to provide a good economy for their citizens, for them to provide subsidy continuously, for them to provide a good standard of living, they couldn't continue in an enslaved system that meant that they occupy the bottom ladder as consuming nations, providing raw materials, while they are forced to buy and buy and buy or produce goods. They wanted to emancipate themselves, and they got together in Liberia. And they agreed. It's called the Monrovia Agreement. Now, interestingly again, they came to, at that time, what was the World Bank doing? What did the World Bank advise? It's interesting for people to know that the World Bank acted against it actively and said, no, in whatever words they use, you remain where you are. It's not necessary. The world system is okay this way. You provide the raw materials, we provide the production. But you know, you cannot deal with the economic woes such as we have now if you're merely a consuming country. This is a fact that you must understand. And the leaders still understood that they must break away. And the next year, here in Lagos, I mean, not here, Abuja, but in Lagos, they got together again. And this time, it was the Lagos Action Plan, action as per the agreement. And they wanted to push forward, but what did this same World Bank do? When World Bank being the case in point, but it's all World Bank,
and the
IMF and all
that.
They went behind the so-called rich African countries like Nigeria at that time, went to the poor people and discouraged them from following the Lagos Action Plan, which would have emancipated Africa from being a consuming nation today. Remember, I said that if we got it right the first time, we would, listen, we would be able to subsidize, or it's money. If you have the revenue.
Because people are actually saying that subsidy is in itself is not totally bad. Because even the EU, and then of course,
who is
American
not subsidizing?
Actually do. They
During
do
the colonial times, who was feeding the world? Africa. Africa was feeding the world.
Actually subsidized the Western world.
Then what happened? What happened when the Second World War ended? We went into the 50s. These same people realized that, no, if they continue like this, they will be dependent on Africa. So what did they do? The magic word, they began to subsidize agriculture in their own nations. And that is why we're in this problem. We can't compete globally.
All right. Yeah. So the people have actually said that the IMF, it's no longer in a very good position to continue to advise Nigeria because they tried advising Nigeria through the structural adjustment program of the Babangida administration, and we saw what happened. So how come the Tinubu-led administration is so tempted to grab the World Bank and other Bretton Woods institutions so much? Because I know that the president, during his days as an activist, he kicked against many of these policies. I remember during the Babangida regime, they were always hitting hard at him. That is because of the IMF and World Bank sanction policies that Nigeria was going down. Yeah. So how come under a democratic government and led by these progressives, they are going forward? Because if you listen to what the finance minister said, he said they are going to cautiously follow these prescriptions alongside with the Minister of Budget and National Planning and the CBN governors to ensure that they do not go back, so in quotes, so that we can sustain the reforms. Yeah, and the reforms that you're sustaining will lead you to maintain that oppressive system that will never enable you meet the economic dreams of your people. How come? You know, I've said it before, I don't know whether it's here. Our problems are not mere economical, okay? Or economic. Our problems are socio-political. Because there is never, or there seems to never be, the political will to do the right thing. Even as we are speaking now, the same people that are advising you to continue with hardship in your country, why I didn't hear them advising that the little that you have,
you should invest right now in all AI technologies. I didn't hear anybody tell my country that right now you should be focusing on your youth and make sure they are all savvy in 4 IRS skills. Why is this important? Because even if you cure your inflation now, even if you cure what you over was you're curing it into slavery. You still remain at the bottom of the ladder. You still remain dependent on loans. You still keep on paying loans out. The key is to break out of what is causing all these symptoms, and they never advise towards that.
Well, let me just quote what the finance minister actually said, Wale Edu. He said, fuel and FX, that's forex subsidy, are extinguished.
Yes.
And then he now said that there's a new government plan that will focus on unemployment, and then a focus on housing finance. And then he now said that the plan will be anchored around mortgage and housing financing. So some of the monies that are actually saved from the removal of subsidies on the Naira and the removal of subsidies on petrol will be tailored towards resolving unemployment, housing, and mortgage.
Yes, I read that.
And then consumer credit.
I read that.
How sustainable or feasible is that actually?
Your economy, for you to sustain that, your economy has to be bustling. Your economy has to be tip-top, and a tip-top economy is a producing economy. Whether it is producing, I'm sounding like a broken record, right? All economies that are sounding, but it's an economy that is producing and exporting so that foreign exchange doesn't, skyrocket. An economy that is producing and exporting so that jobs are created. So it's not about going to alleviate the symptoms once again. It's about generating institutions that will create the solutions, create the jobs, and you can't circumvent it. I'm ready to say it 29 times today. You must produce what you're consuming, and you must produce what others will consume. That is when you start having an economy.
Yeah, but could we have channeled the subsidies into production rather than consumption instead of totally removing the subsidies? Now, if we subsidize the production of food and subsidize the production of petrol, maybe supporting Dangote and then our own refineries, do you think that this could have been a better way? Because some people are advocating actually for a return to subsidy, but this time around that the subsidy should be directed at production and not consumption. Instead of totally just removing subsidy at all.
I totally get you. Okay, that is, I carefully say that is okay. But my personal view is that the market should be allowed to act with market forces. Now, if you're subsidizing anything, you should be subsidizing production. So if there's anybody that is going to be able to produce and earn you forex and create jobs, that is he whom you should subsidize. Or that is them whom you should subsidize. So it's similar to what people are saying. In fact, I'm in agreement. I'm just fine-tuning that institutions that will enable you create jobs, put subsidy in there. Okay? Institutions that are consumption, eradicate them. And I do not want to communicate that.
And that's where the political part of it actually comes in.
Yes, my friend.
So many institutions that are draining monies from the economy.
All institutions.
Okay, now, let's talk about how much investments we need in the economy. I was at the A.Chibo Warns lecture at the ECOWAS Secretariat here in the nation's capital, Abuja, when Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, the African Development Bank president, actually gave a projection as to the countries or similar economies like us that are producing and what they are producing and what their annual earnings are like. And that of Nigeria was just $57 billion US in a whole year. And out of that, $52 billion was earned from oil. And then about $5 billion was from, export of services and other aspects. And then you have countries like Singapore, like South Korea, that he put, some of them earning close to $320-something billion. Malaysia, about $215 billion as FDI in a year. Vietnam, for example, despite the fact that Vietnam was at war with the Americans for over 20 years, they are doing far more better than us.
Oh, yeah.
So how can we move away from this? I mean, aren't we blinded enough by this focus on oil? How can Nigeria, with its huge population, still be earning about $57 billion in a year?
Yeah, my brother, it goes back to the Monrovia Agreement. Very important for people to look it up and find out what the text is, and of course this action plan. Because all you have said is right there, where it is said clearly that we need to move away from, once again, a consuming nature and put most government revenue in production. If you understand me.
Yes.
By doing that, by putting government money in production, you are invariably creating the necessary jobs that catalyzes an economy. And by catalyzing an economy, you are making investment easy. Which brings me to another point. How easy is it in our economy right now to actually set up a world-class production factory or industry in anything? It is very, very, very difficult.
Despite the ease of doing business?
Oh, in spite of the ease of doing business. And I'm a bit embarrassed to say it. All you need to look at Dangote and what has happened to him. Then turn your head to the left and look at Air Peace. So there has to be visionary leadership in promoting our own. That encourages others to come in. But as it is now, it is unheard of. You must be, and I hope I can say that on TV, you must be crazy to put so much money, money in producing world class. Now, here's the sad thing. If you don't do that, then there's no catalyzing your economy. You're going to remain the same.
So what should the Tinubu administration be doing now? There are these prescriptions, and there are Nigerians saying that, look, if you continue to follow this World Bank,
first of all,
you may actually
this
get
World
into
Bank thing
a serious
should
problem.
be dropped. There should be a revisit. And because it's making it easy for me to just refer to a document, okay, or to an agreement. There should be a revisit on what the Monrovia Agreement is and localize it, because that was for Africa.
Yeah.
Localize it. And what it will tell you is you should invest in today's production and tomorrow's future production. Now, the world has changed. The world has changed. What it was in 1980 is not what it is today. And what we are supposed to be investing in, 2 legs and 2 arms now, are fourth industrial revolution skills and production. Because that's where the future is.
And what are those skills specifically?
Artificial intelligence, biotechnology, nanotechnology.
Yeah, but the politicians will keep telling you that this high sounding, that it won't trickle down.
Oh,
they actually want things that can easily be felt.
I'm really sorry about that. Did I say? Was I about to say data? What do I call it? Data, not data processing, but big data.
Yeah.
Okay. How will big data not trickle down? There is nothing complicated in big data, but just for the youth or whoever to gain the necessary software skills, and then backed up by the necessary hardware, and you're exporting services. What is not going to trickle down in using homegrown, AI grown, because we have the youth, we have the brains to do this, home and abroad, using AI software skills to produce AI that solve little domestic problems. It's not even investment here, it's encouragement.
Providing the
enabling environment to do that. If in schools, the first thing now is, what education are you actually turning out right now? Right now, when an SS3 graduate comes out now, is he ready for the world? The answer is no. It's not. Because what is needed in the real world for the kind of economy and life we want now, that's not what the skills are in secondary school.
Right.
That is not even the skills in universities right now.
As we try to
I'm talking of Nigeria.
Yes, this conversation. Let's talk about the advantages, the areas of comparative advantage that Nigeria has away from oil, so that the government and those who are in power continue to think. While we are saying that, yes, forex subsidies has gone and petrol subsidies have all gone, nonetheless, where should we channel that is our comparative advantage? We have over 200 million people. What specific sectors?
Northwest.
Could we focus more on agriculture? Could we focus more on what are the specific things that if it's probably done in the next 8 to 10 years, we could get something sizable?
Comparative. I like you use the word comparative advantage, and let's explore that. 3 weeks ago, being an FDI consultant, I received a dossier, a research dossier on using Nigerian leather, which, by the way, is very high quality leather from Kano and the Jigawa and the Sokoto side. Using such leather, producing them, adding value to them to be world class, and then franchising them. I will tell you why I use the word franchising to the Italian market. And when I say Italian now, I mean the global fashion market. That alone is trillions. That alone started from a good production plan, a good business plan to the end, is trillions.
Can we earn like about $10 billion US yearly if we're able to invest on that?
Not at the initial point, but as an industry, I think after 8 years, yes, you can. Especially if you put in good marketing into it. Yes, you can, because what is in it? That industry has been there in Kano for over 200 to 300 years. They know what to do. But that's just one industry. I went to, now I think I can say this. Our emerald, not our emeralds, in particular, was it our sapphires and our tourmalines, okay? Yes, our sapphires, I want to be exact in case I'm quoted, and our tourmalines are sold in the international market now in Thailand at exorbitant prices. And I'm a bit shocked because I don't know whether that is actually how it got there. Is it?
Well, this government says is actually doing so much within the minerals resources.
So if it is regulated, if it is regulated, because I'm answering your question about revenue coming in. Yeah. I have not seen that part of the economy actually
reflecting so much in the GDP.
In GDP, yes. Yeah. But the way I see the sapphires and everything, yes, it should be. It should be. So that's just one aspect. What about cotton? What about cotton now? We're now talking about the Northwest, or should I say North Central. Yeah. The cotton industry is what is feeding the economy of two of our neighbors combined. And our natural
Republic and
Togo. But why did I mention them? Our land mass and the land mass we have to grow cotton is greater than the land mass they have to grow the same cotton combined. I hope I've said something here.
Yeah.
So that tells you that we can earn more than what they're earning in their own GDP towards our own GDP right now, and we are not doing that.
And I remember, cotton production used to be so high in Katsina.
Yes, and these are practical examples I have given you. I have not gone to the southeast, neither have I gone to the southwest. So it takes political will.
Yeah, do you think this government has that political will and capacity to focus more on these governance aspects rather than, play lots of politics as we try to round up this conversation?
Okay, you said, repeat the question, because you said
if
something
this government has the political will to focus on these governance aspects, of, pushing all the resources into this production.
The answer is a practical question,
than,
my brother. If they did, we would have seen it.
Well, they are saying they are just less than 2 years into government.
Oh, no. My personal opinion, this is not personal. All I have said can be executed in 3 months. It just needs the knowledge, which is there. I'm not the only one that knows this.
But in terms of documents, we've always had that. I mean, as an FDI consultant,
it has been there.
You've seen that there have been lots of expectations, and most ministers go abroad and tell us they've got this amount for foreign direct investment, and then, I mean, it's been years so much. I mean, I was told of a minister who goes and he has an MOU that he signs and just brings to announce, and over time, even the government, several governments ago, not now, had to question what it means with those announcements because they were not getting the income, the expected income. So in the next 2 to 3 years or 4 years, could we actually see some of the income that we have been told? Because the president in his independence speech said about $30 billion is being expected. Do you think we can actually realize that in the next 2 years that he has 3 to 4 years before?
If government from today begins to act and think as a business, yes. A business where the profit and dividends is actually revenue into the country, which translates to jobs, yes. But you have to begin to think as a business, where the citizens are the benefits, reap the benefits of the business. Yes.
All right. We must thank you so much, Professor Anthony Chibo. Christopher is the head of investment, research and development for Africa at the Swiss Business School in Switzerland. We must thank you so much for your insight. And we just hope the Monrovia agreement you talked about will be dusted by this government. I mean, if it was, some of these things were thought about 40 years ago.
40 years ago. Why I said that, remember, is because he said about that same time when oil crashed, this is where everything started. And I'm reminding the world that, hey, about that same time, some African leaders were trying to do something and you stopped it.
Well, we just hope that the government continue to take a look at some of these suggestions and then see how even that of the World Bank will be managed so that Nigerians will not continue to suffer so much, because groups like the Action Aid have said that the World Bank's prescriptions are actually inhumane because more Nigerians are getting into poverty by the day, and of course other elder statesmen are calling for caution, saying that what happened to us during the structural adjustment program should serve as a huge lesson for any Nigerian government, including that of President Bola Tinubu.